Hello and welcome to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. Today we are going back in time to a couple of months ago, I think, maybe a month ago, when I put out a request for listener questions, and two people responded, one of which was a joke. So thankfully, the one that was actually kind of serious, I think is enough to cover a full episode between the two of us, myself and Paul. But thankfully, even the one that is intended for a joke is actually, I kind of decided it's a little bit interesting enough to actually address it, even though it was intended for a joke. It's very simple. It'll be very quick. I could get it out of the way right at the beginning. But before we get to that, how are you doing today, Paul?
I'm doing lovely, mate. I'm doing really good. How about you?
Well, what the audience don't know, but what both of us know fully well, it took a little while to get things off the ground here. We've been having a few tech issues, which I hope will stay out of it for the next 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's giving me a bit of anxiety, to be honest. I'm kind of on edge here, like staring at the EQ on the screen, like, all right, stay bolt upright, mate. Come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Other than that, we're gonna walk it off.
So it turns out we have a couple of Patreon supporters now. One of whom is Ryan Fan, who sent in this question quite a while back. This was actually before we even set up a Patreon, but now that he is one of our supporters, I think it's only fair that we should answer his question. He writes to us asking, you're reading a magazine, you come across a full-page nude photo of a girl, you show it to your husband. He likes it so much he hangs it on your bedroom wall. How does that make you feel? Now, a lot of you will immediately recognize that this is pretty much verbatim a question that was asked in the Voight-Kampff Test of Blade Runner. And the reason why I want to address this is just because it's funny that that's pretty much also very close to verbatim from how it was asked in the novella Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And the only difference between the two, to the best that my memory serves me, is that it leaves out half a sentence that was in the book. This question, as asked in the movie, leaves out the part where it mentions that the model in the photo is lying across, I believe, a bearskin rug or some sort of an animal skin rug. And there's actually specific attention is paid to this in the book, very, explicitly, that was pretty much the most important part of the question, because the Voight-Kampff test is an empathy test, and it's testing whether or not the person being questioned is an android or a real human. And what the test is doing is that it was monitoring whether or not the subject would focus on the actual spirit of the question, which is, how does she, in this case, respond to the fact that her husband responds favorably to seeing a sexual image of another woman, while ignoring the fact that the woman is lying on a bearskin rug or an animal skin rug. In the universe that was built for the book and touched on a little bit in the movie, but not nearly to the same extent, is the fact that it's a world where animals are nearly entirely extinct, with a few... They're just so very rare that any human existing in that environment would immediately respond with shock at the fact that this woman is lying across an animal skin rug. And the fact that they left that out is kind of interesting because it kind of shows how not as important that is in the context of the world that's built in the movie, even though the entire rest of the question remains the same.
No, that's really, really cool. I'm a big fan of Philip K. Dick. Got a lot of his books laying around the house. They all say PKD. I'm like, oh, that's my initials plus Dick. But as you were saying all that, of course, I was listening, clinging onto every word, if you will. I was also trying to come up with an actual answer, so I wasn't sure we were gonna not actually answer. So in me head, I'm like, all right, I've got a husband. Well, what's he look like? Does he look me in the eyes during? All these type of things to try and come up with some substance for an answer. But I'm quite relieved I don't have to.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you can if you want. Like, if you did put the effort into an answer and you really don't want to waste it, by all means, go right ahead. I just wanted to say that was kind of interesting. The way it was written out, it was the first time once Ryan had asked that question that I actually realized that it was missing that very crucial part of the question as far as the novella was concerned.
No, that is really cool. That's a really good point. It's been probably 7 years since I read the book, so I really wasn't aware of it at this point. And I will decline to answer because I feel like I'll just send us into entropy if I do. Um, so I'll just let it go. Yeah, I ain't got much. Plus, I'm not sure if it's debated or not out there, but I'm not an android, so I guess there's really no need.
It is debated. I was actually asking you to find out. This is a Voight-Kampff test that I'm applying to you each week.
I feel like I'd have like a much larger thesaurus and wealth of knowledge at my will if I was an android, but instead I've just got a lot of uhs and stuttering instead.
And then I say right immediately. So So the next question, which is actually a real question, is from Sean McCauley again, who actually provided some of the questions from the last time we did listener feedback questions, or mailbag, I should say. To paraphrase, to sort of like get it down to like just the nub of what he's asking, he says, most phones today have the capabilities of NES, SNES, Genesis, and even PS1. What other great classic games would be really great on a phone?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. Thank you, Sean. And thank you, Ryan. Both wonderful lads, good mates. Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I personally did a little homework as far as seeing what was already existent, and I found that .emu, the devs, I think emu, yeah, as an emulator, I guess, had already ported a few of the things that I had listed, which I've, made things a little bit more difficult. But anyway, a quick shout out to them. Check them out. They got games like Raiden, R-Type, Double Dragon, Karateka, Sanitarium, Last Express, I Have No Mouth, etc. So, it was actually, I wasn't sure how I could... how long I could go on the subject. I was quite afraid I wouldn't have much to say until I got down the rabbit hole and realized that I actually had to do some homework and come up with some things. So no, great question. Would you like to kick us off here, Rick?
I'll see what I can, because again, I was trying to think of games that I don't really mention very much on the show. And it turns out that, of course, my first answer here is Loom, which is the game that I've mentioned on pretty much every single episode. But I assure you, from here on, it gets a little bit more, less obvious, I should say. Can something be more or less obvious, I guess? So that's why I'm getting it out of the way real quick, because I think basically most point-and-click adventures would really work. So I'm trying to think of games that would not just be playable on mobile, but can actually really make a good use of the mobile format. And I thought of Loom just because, number one, it's a pretty easy game. It's not high pressure. You're never in any risk of dying, so you don't need to. There's no timing. There's no quick reflexive requirement to play the game. And it is obviously an awesome game. But I was also thinking maybe not so much for playing in public, but just it'd be kind of cool if they have a new mobile feature where instead of just playing the notes on the little interface, the little staff interface, you should actually have to sing the notes into the mic. So, there is already a hardcore mode on Loom where you have to kind of play it by ear and remember what the, what do they call those things? You have to remember them by ear because they don't give you what the actual notes are. And you have to just remember how to play them. But I was also thinking, if you're going to move it to mobile, why not have like an extra difficult mode where not only that, but you actually have to sing every single spell, basically a spell. I know it's not a spell, but I forget how they refer to it. But if you have to actually sing out the spells in order to solve these puzzles, that's something they could do with that.
Oh, that's really cool. Now I feel a little bit downbeaten because I know going forward I will have nothing to top that once again. Damn it, man. You showed me up again. Well played.
I have nothing really nearly as interesting as that on the rest of my list, to be perfectly honest.
That'd be really, really cool. Make use of the microphone, built into the phone. I'd obviously have to do that in private, which isn't a problem, but it
would be an option. Like, you don't have to do it. It would just be an option that you could do it.
No, as long as no one could hear me doing it, I'm signed up. I'm all about it. As long as no one long as no one's listening. But that's that's really cool. Yeah, I would play that. And Loom's another good choice too because it's not the longest of games, which is I think good for the mobile platform too.
Hmm.
Uh, it's a quick fix sort of a medium, so I think that fits too. As far as point and clicks, which are notoriously quite long, it's one of the shorter ones, I guess, depending on the mode, etc. Maybe I just played it too much and I feel like it is, but anyway, really good choice. I feel like we should maybe hit pause and come back in 4 hours so I can have something clever to say.
Well,
Or
like I
to
said,
come
like
close
the
to that
rest of
one.
my picks are not nearly as clever. I think the only other one that's kind of interesting is I would say Katamari Damacy. I'm not sure if they've actually already ported this or not. I don't think so. I'd like to believe I would have heard about it if they did, but I just sort of think it would be interesting because phones have sort of like a kind of a motion sensor, like a gyroscope or whatever you call it inside. It would be kind of interesting to play Katamari using motion controls as opposed to like the dual analogs like it normally is. So in this case, you can like tilt forward, you can tilt it to the side, basically use the tilt controls in order to roll things up as opposed to just standard joystick controls. That's like kind of the only other game I can think of that would really make use of something special about putting it onto a phone or a tablet that you can't do on just like a regular laptop or desktop.
Right, right. No, that's brilliant, and I really like that feature that you just mentioned because I think we can all relate when you're playing a console game. For me specifically, like a motorcycle racing game. We all kind of tend to lean into things and to tilt our controllers as if it's doing something, and it's not. Whereas the phone, that little you're so into it that you're tilting left and right actually matters. So that's actually a really cool idea.
Mm-hmm. I guess like an honorable mention might go to Okami, just if it'd be kind of cool to like draw your spells right on the screen, but it's still at heart, it's still a third person action adventure game, which would be horrible on just like a touchscreen phone. So unfortunately, I mean, I know you can get Bluetooth controllers and that'd be pretty cool, but in terms of just like having a phone without having to turn it into its own console, uh, Okami would be cool, but not really. So I'm not even going to. That's just an honorable mention, and everything from here gets just pretty vanilla. So before I get to those ones, let's hear any of the picks that you might have.
What I thought would be kind of cool would be to use the Sierra educational release titles. My thought behind that is there's a lot of young lads on tablets nowadays, and it seems like it may be fleeting. It could be a transient sort of fad right now that the young generation is into pixel art and that retro vibe. It's basically, kind of in or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I'm old in the way. I'm not really sure if it is. It just seems like it from the outside looking in. But what I'm saying is, while that generation is on the tablets and is sort of into, the pixel art thing, it'd be kind of cool to use the Sierra educational series. I think games like Echo Quest 1 and 2, Dr. Brain, etc. What's really cool about them games is, the solid games, first of all. The music in the second one, Secret of the Rainforest, is gorgeous, beautiful music. But what's nice about them is that they brought up an issue, a long, long time ago, that's obviously even more prevalent now because we ain't, as a society, done much about it, which is the environment. And it's just kind of cool because it's one of them things where you're playing along, you're having fun, and it's almost subconsciously channeling this message to you. It's not forcing it down your throat. It's not like this whole thing's about, like, the environment and the future and waste and what we're doing to the planet, etc. I mean, that wouldn't be fun. So it just kind of sneaks it in there here and there to where you almost don't realize it, but when you're done, you kind of sit back and be like, man, I should probably go like do some recycling or whatever. To tell them lot I don't want a receipt. I don't know what I could do. I go Google it. But anyway, I'd like to see the educational series, Dr. Brain, kind of a bit of a hybrid between the typical point and click games and the puzzle games that are very popular on mobile. Be kind of cool to use that point and click interface, which on the touchscreen is what I don't know, touch and tap basically. It works so well. So I thought it'd be neat to see Echo Quest delivering a good message for the kids, or Dr. Brain, which kind of merges puzzles with adventure. Obviously, puzzles do really well in mobile, so yeah, that's my first choice.
I definitely agree with Dr. Brain. I have not actually played EcoQuest, so I don't really know much about that. I'll take your word for it. But Dr. Brain for sure. Another one which I'd like to throw on there. I'm not sure if it's fully Sierra. It's at least Dynamics, I think. But The Incredible Machine. I didn't think of this beforehand. It's just sort of like you reminded me because you mentioned Dr. Brain. The Incredible Machine, I think, would also be pretty awesome.
God, you've done it again. That's such a good choice. No, that really is, because, especially in mobile, I always think of like single serving, a quick fix sort of thing. And Incredible Machines got that, where you don't have to commit to, or, it's hard in adventure games, let's say on mobile, it's hard to walk away from the story. And in life, you got to. I mean, maybe you're doing a poo and you only got 5 minutes. Well, I mean, about more like 25 minutes. Wait until my leg falls asleep and then I move on. But anyway, point is, that'd be a really cool game, because you could just do, a level, 2 levels or whatever. Good call.
The cool thing about The Incredible Machine, too, is that it does have that single-player gameplay where you do have to solve the puzzles, but they also have a creative mode where you can just, go nuts and do whatever you want. I think it'd be kind of interesting to see these days, given, in a time where people play Minecraft and build entire computers inside of Minecraft from which you can play a stripped down version of Minecraft. People just do like these most amazing things. It'd be kind of interesting to see what today's players can really come up with in terms of a Rube Goldberg type machine. They'll probably have to expand it a little bit. I don't think there's really a whole heck of a lot to play with the originals, but if they were to just expand it a little bit, I'd like to see the weird contraptions that people can do with this sort of thing. Because already you see the sheer creativity and mind-blowing precision that people put towards level editors for like Mario and stuff like that. So,
right.
It'd be kind of cool to see, if you give people the opportunity to put together a video game Rube Goldberg, what would they do with that?
Yeah, no, that'd be really cool. And like you're getting at, to have like a communal sharing vibe where you can play other people's levels and things like this. That would be really, really fun. Kind of like Gary's mod or whatever, start sharing the things that you create and seeing, if people can accomplish it and figure it out. Yeah, that's really good.
Other ones I would say are not so much that they're like really creatively making use of the platform, just so much that they'd be kind of fun. They're the games that I would kind of want on mobile. I would say, actually, it kind of sits on the line between classic era and modern. But there's a game, Ikaruga, which is kind of a little bit of an underdog, but, a lot of people who are listening to this will probably know what that is. It's basically a shoot 'em up, kind of like Raiden, or Raptor, or something like one of those games where you're like the little plane at the bottom of the screen that shoots upwards. But It's just so much more. It's a hardcore version of that, where it's almost a spectacle. It's almost like a light show. All of the things. It's like a bullet hell type of shoot 'em up.
Right.
So it'd be interesting if you basically, maybe not directly under your finger, just a little bit outside of it, so you can see clearly where your ship is, but basically have to use your finger and touch controls to move your character about the screen as you nimbly dodge through these bullet hell levels. It's a game that's really quite spectacular. Like I could just turn it on YouTube, someone playing it, and just watch it, and it's just amazing. It's probably almost more fun to do that than to actually play it, because it's so difficult too. And there's little game mechanics like they fire, if I recall correctly, white bullets and black bullets, and depending on which mode you're in, you could either get killed by white bullets and absorb black bullets, or vice versa. So it's a sort of, there's a little bit of depth of gameplay to it. Nothing too complicated, but it'd also be kind of cool to actually have to use your finger to move about and just dodge this flurry of on-screen bullets.
Yeah, no, that's a really cool idea. Kind of like what you were saying before, how can we take advantage of the mobile platform, which, by the way, as you're noticing, none of my answers do. But as yours brilliantly do, that's a really cool idea, because I think, we could be probably quite a bit quicker, using index and middle finger, whatever, just, rapidly tapping back and forth. I'd be real curious to see how much more if any, that you could accomplish with the touchscreen interface. I think the next choice for me would be, this is a broad spectrum. I'll try and narrow it down as I explain away, or desperately try and make it sound like a valid answer. Would be FMV games. I picked that because, I think they make good tablet ports. Maybe a little concern over the size of them, but overall good tablet ports because, the half movie, half game. Basically, the two things we use tellies for. You got your Netflix and your games or whatever. Other streaming services all available. Saying that like we're on the BBC. Sorry. Then I said that like I've been on the BBC, which ain't the case either. Lest I digress.
I wouldn't be surprised if you had.
It'd be a lot cooler if I did. So anyway, yeah, I picked them. Same with that kind of point and click or tap and touch sort of idea. It'll obviously work really well on the screen. I also picked it because I thought FMV games are just great brain candy. I'm stealing that from Kids in the Hole or whatever, but I love that term because it's like, just that quick fix, like, well, maybe not quick fix, but something that's just pleases you like a chocolate bar. Like it ain't got to be, sophisticated or anything like that. Just brain candy. I don't know why I had to further explain that. But anyway, I noticed a couple of months ago, I'm not sure when, honestly, it could have been years, but Night Trap, the infamous FMV game, I think it was originally on console, was remastered to a degree, or maybe it's just an anniversary release. I don't know how you'd remaster it, but yeah, it was just like a 25th anniversary release was done on at least Steam, and it did really good. Basically, it had like a quick moment in the sun again, and I feel like this generation. I've got a daughter that's 17 and she walks around wearing Cosby sweaters all the time. Like they're eating up this 80s culture right now. And at first I was like, man, it feels a little too soon to bring it back. But I actually really appreciate it. Not the Cosby sweaters, but the or the men behind them. But it's they're really. They seem to be, and God, I sound so old because I keep saying they're, like, I'm so removed from them, but I am. I don't really.
We kind of are.
It.
That's the entire point, really, is how detached we are from anything modern. It's like, we are the classic gamers guild. We are talking about games that are older than people who vote.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. We like old games, and we can throw our backs out by sneezing. That's how proper classic gamer. So. The FMV thing, I'm trying to tie together with this younger generation, speaking of my daughter, etc. They seem to just be eating up this 80s John Hughes, if you will, just for a blanket, stereotype. They seem to be eating up that culture right now. So I do feel like the kind of overall cheesiness, that kind of a lot of B-movie sort of feel that a lot of the FMV games had would have appealed to them. And I guess now that I'm saying that out loud, I'm realizing that I guess my approach is really trying to bring younger generations, assuming that they're probably the majority of mobile players, into some of these older games. I guess that's been my approach. Yeah, I can now confirm that after grabbing my fake necktie and pushing my no glasses up to my nose, looking smart. So yeah, that's my choice. I don't have any specific FMV games. I wouldn't pick Night Trap. I mean, that's a great game and all, but I'd have to pick games in which I cannot mention because of promises made.
Oh, I see. That's how it's going to be. We're not going to actually mention. We're just going to allude to.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, how cryptic.
Well, that's okay. I mean, like the other game I was thinking of, or one of the other ones I was thinking of, is one that I've mentioned a couple times now. So it's not like I've never talked about some of these games before. But, we're getting a little more generic, just sort of like games that would be kind of cool to have on mobile as opposed to actually utilizing any benefits of the mobile platform. So another good one to have on there, if you were to ask me, is actually the original Dune game. Because, again, it's a blend of a lot of genres without actually being any particular one, or at least not being a whole heck of a lot of any one, but being like a little tiny bit of a whole bunch of different styles. So it's not an RTS, but it's kind of got elements of an RTS. It's not actually a point and click adventure, but it's got elements of a point and click adventure, but it's just also really cool. And I guess I kind of also singled this one out just because it has a really cool soundtrack. So it'd be kind of cool just to like have something to play with your headphones in, listen to the music while you're kind of playing a, perfunctory gameplay mechanic as you sort of immerse yourself and absorb yourself in this world. And it's a pretty cool game. It's got a game to it. I'm not saying like it's nothing to actually be playing there. It's fun. I like it a lot. It's one of the classics. But, I think that one I choose because it's got, most people who play it agree it's one of the best video game soundtracks, or at least one of the most underrated. And it's not the type of game that requires the twitchy reflexes or precision controls. You just kind of go about it your own pace. You just kind of make your little choices at your own speed, and it's basically more about decisions and what to do as opposed to how fast or precisely you can do it.
Right, no, that's a really good choice. I love that game. And there's so many from that era, or maybe just even a wee bit before, that they could, just dump on there, and I'd eat them up. Kind of like all of us, we have so many games that we want to play and we want to get to. I'd basically be downloading things I wouldn't maybe even play, but I just get this weird OCD warm blanket over me comfort of knowing they're on my phone and available to play.
Yeah.
But Doom be one of the top of the list. Yeah, that's a really good one. So do you have any like Dune that you'd also like to say, that kind of just for fun, that you'd personally like to see on there?
Well, the issue with asking for a game like Dune is that what is a game like Dune that isn't Dune? That's why it kind of like came up as my number one pick back on our old episode about unique games, is that I can't compare it to anything. It's there's aspects of it that's comparable to other genres, but like I just said, it's kind of like a little bit of anything. It's not predominantly anything, and it's a blend of little bits of different genres. In some cases, before those even became genres, basically mainly the RTS. So to think of a game that's like Dune, I can't really think of anything. I'm sure somebody, and by all means, if anyone can think of a game that's like Dune, I'd love to hear it and I'd love to play it because that's awesome. But other than that, I would just say probably it's kind of mainly in the spirit in this context of any point and click adventure that is not based anything on timing or precision.
Right. No, well said. And yeah, Dune was a trailblazer. That's the
Sure.
saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Out here? Yeah. All right. Cool. I feel cool saying it. It's definitely impossible. Basically, like you said, it kind of, if anything, shapes future games. So there's, I guess nothing like it. But I guess let's say, putting Dune specifically aside, just anything else on your personal favorites list that just for selfish reasons you'd love to see on the phone.
Yes, Lemmings.
Oh, good one.
That was kind of my last one. That's my last one on my list. So that's my list is now complete and fulfilled. But that was my last one, is Lemmings. It's not that you have to change anything about it, in fact, because it's just Lemmings. Just put that on a phone. I don't know if they've done it yet. They should, because I don't know why they wouldn't. Lemmings or Lemmings 2, just anything, just put it on there. It's playable, completely playable on a phone. You don't need to do anything, just put it on there. I'm begging and pleading and demanding I have money that I will spend if anyone out there puts Lemmings on a phone. So yeah, that's my pick.
It got really passionate. I like that. Here's a blank check. You write any number on it you want.
Yeah.
Now, granted, over a certain amount, it will bounce, but the
Yes,
sentiment
exactly.
is there. I would just hope they don't muck it up and do the 3D one. Like
That
you
is
said,
very
maybe,
correct,
one or
yes.
two. One of the earlier ones, and yeah, God, that's such a brilliant choice. It kind of in the same vanity of incredible machine. Obviously they're very different games, but that same sort of like you can pick it up and put it down, and I think that's probably quite important for mobile gamings and companies that are looking what to port and things like this. It's games you can pick up, put down. Lemmings you clear level and move on with your day or whatever. So yeah, really good choice.
I just thought of another one which I would kind of throw in there, but I've talked too much already, so I will throw that in if afterwards if you have anything to add.
I do, and it's really short. So yeah, you can bookend it with that one. So my last one, I was again just kind of perusing through the App Store, looking around, and noticed, and I think a lot of us are well aware that Sega's done a really good job lately of slowly bringing back a lot of classics, which has been really nice. As I previously mentioned, Dark Emu's ported everything from wonderful, point and click games like I Have No Mouth, Last Express Sanitarium, all the way to R-Type and Raid and Double Dragon. But what I ain't seen or would like to see more of would be more from Nintendo, or rather more retro games from Nintendo as opposed to like Mario Run. Like, I know it's, quite an obvious choice. It ain't the most clever choice. So yeah, I'd like to see more Nintendo games out there. I mean, maybe stop spending money on attorneys and spend more money on porting. It'd be really nice to see some more games out there. If I had to pick one, that really represents Nintendo, I would go with Maniac Mansion. I'm kidding. No, I would go with.
You had me for a second there. I was like, but.
I actually meant King's Quest. No, again. So I would go with. I would go Paperboy. I love that game. So just for selfish reasons, I ain't even thought out whether it would be more of a touch screen or the little transparent arrows they got, which I actually don't really like. Because you're like well into it, and then you realize like you're 3 inches off from where the fucking button is, and you miss it. I just bleeped myself for some reason. Sorry about that. Well, not sorry, I guess. I'm not sure. Anyway, but yeah, I ain't thought about how they'd port it, but I love Paperboy, and I just feel like it's a cult classic, and I feel like it's a timeless game. Kids will have fun with it, us alike. So I'm saying all of this just to say, hey, Nintendo, do us a Paperboy on Android and iOS, please.
I would, it was funny because I was mentioning Lemmings, and as I talk about Lemmings, my mind also went towards like, what if you could also have a game like Worms on there? And then I kind of realized, you know what? I don't know if Worms would really be so well to play on a cell phone, but that's pretty much entirely just because there is a certain, I think you do have like a little bit of a timer between each round. It'll be a little clunky to try to ninja rope through everything. And it is really kind of finicky with the controls, which is fine if you're playing it on a PC or a handheld system like the 3DS or something like that, or the DS. Under those circumstances, perfectly fine. But on like an actual touchscreen only platform like mobile or tablet, I don't know if Worms would be such a good game to put onto that. But then I thought, well, you know what would be really good and would be kind of similar to Worms would be if you put Scorched Earth on there, because it is not based on like timing or anything like that. It really is a sort of turn-based. There's a little bit of mobility compared to something like its predecessors, Tank Wars, or that one where you're the gorilla throwing bananas at each other. But you and I guess a couple of other tanks, you can just you set the angle, velocity. It's all really kind of just very at your leisure to make the move, and a lot more, lot less pressure, I should say, is kind of like the big difference between Scorched Earth and Worms. And I think that would actually probably be pretty good. It deserves, it's on some level or another, no matter what, Scorched Earth deserves some sort of a comeback of sorts in the classic gaming community.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Definitely. Is it available like on GOG or
I
Steam?
have no idea, to be perfectly honest. I really don't think it's on GOG. I will highly doubt that it's on Steam. It's kind of, I don't even know if it was even really like a major release. I think it was just sort of the game that everyone played, just sort of like the game that was like really quick and small and very easy to share on a BBS at the time. So everyone had it, and it was just also really fun. So I don't know if it was even like actually like I don't know if it was a boxed release. I don't know if it was a retail release. I don't know. It very well could be. I just know that it was sort of like the game that was sort of BPS from person to person.
Right. No, yeah, you just unearthed, really old memory of mine because I ain't really thought about it since I played it last, well over a decade ago, maybe it's two. And as soon as you said it, I'm like, God, I want to play that like yesterday all of a sudden. So yeah, I'll have to search it up. But yeah, that would be a really good choice. Like you said, it's kind of in the same spirit as Worms, but without the timing issue and things like that. Yeah, really good call.
If there was any sort of a retail release, it was probably, I'm going to guess, like shareware. Then you can like mail order for the disc for the full version or something like that, right? But otherwise, I think it was just sort of like, oh yeah, well, here's just the game, and that was about it, right? So,
right.
do you know anyone who's actually paid for a copy of Scorched Earth? Has that ever happened?
No, I'm not sure. Nor can I remember waiting 6 weeks to get it back in the mail or anything. I'm not sure how it even showed up at my house, to be honest. It was just there one day.
It's just there. Yeah, no, exactly. It was just kind of there. And I kind of wonder if that person whoever made it, maybe it was a team of people, maybe it was only one person, or maybe like a handful, but if anyone actually made money off it, because everyone's played it, I wonder if it's like you could track these guys down and be like, hey, here's a couple of bucks just because I played your game. Yeah. I don't think anyone's ever actually paid you for it.
Yeah, exactly. Poor lot's probably, on a street somewhere like, oh, now you're trying to pay me. Thanks a lot. No, yeah, if anybody knows who's in charge, let us know so we can get him a coffee for free.
And tell him to port it to mobile while he's at it.
Yeah, he's only getting that coffee after he's done the port, though.
Yeah. So last word, like, what's your final pick?
I
and
don't
on a high
have
note.
A final pick.
Oh, come on, that's not a high note. That's the opposite of a high note. Pick something. What comes to your mind?
Let's see. Earthworm Jim, Toe Jam, and Earl. Just pops in my head.
No, that's a horrible idea.
See, I gave it no thought. I have no idea how it even worked. You said worms, and I'm like, oh, I miss Earthworm Jim. He was a good mate. And Toe Jam and Earl was similar.
I mean, great games, absolutely. But they're like some of the hardest platform games of all time. Can you imagine playing Earthworm Jim on like the transparent keypad or the gamepad on the screen?
Yeah, no, that's so true. You have your fingers drifting 3 inches away from the button while you're well into it. Yeah. You're right. All right, so I may not have a high note to end on, but it's my trademark low end to end on.
Okay.
Plus, I got you to laugh at me, so that's I'll take that.
How
about you? You got a proper?
No,
I think you already gave
I've,
us
I've
one.
kind of exhausted my brain on this one. I don't really. I don't know. I haven't really played any official games on my phone in a really long time. I think I did when I first got my very first smartphone. I tried Scum VM and all that, and I played a bunch of point and click adventures, but they didn't really. I didn't like the interface because it wasn't even just like you could just touch where you wanted to touch. You had to use the screen like the like that little mouse pad on a laptop where you have to drag the cursor with the screen rather than it just clicking where you want to click. Or where you point, rather. It doesn't just doesn't just click where you point to. So I found it a little bit cumbersome, so I kind of fell really jaded with that really quickly. Also because it was just on a phone, so it didn't have an escape key, so I couldn't get past any of the opening intros anytime I loaded up a game. So I always had to sit through every single intro to every game before I could get to a point where I can play them. So I just stopped on that. I think the one game that was ported to mobile, which actually worked really well, and I played it for a little bit, was obviously a newer game, but it was Terraria, which is really good. But again, even then I just stopped playing because I don't know, I just don't really like playing games on my phone. It's not saying anything against mobile gaming as an industry. I don't know. I don't want to use my phone for games.
No, well, I agree, and especially being such a big adventure fan, that's why I was so keen on your Incredible Machine idea, and Lemmings, because you can really just pick them up and put them down. Adventure games are so engrossing, and you get so wrapped up in the world. It's if I find myself playing a game on the phone as opposed to a computer, then I'm probably kind of on the go in between things, and it just seems like an unnecessary platform. If you have a computer, that is, to do that on. So yeah, no, I totally agree. That being said, I'm greatly contradicting myself, so I will say that Wadger Eye has done a wonderful job at porting on all their games. So if you're out there interested and don't like sitting down at a computer, whatever the case is, Wadger Eye has ported not as many to Android, but I think almost all of them sends maybe 2 or 3 to the iOS platform. And they play really, really well. So props to Dave Gilbert, to Janet Gilbert, who I believe is the one responsible for making the ports. I could be wrong about that, but I think so. Either way, check them out. They've done a great job. And I'll just make a quick comment. I'd mentioned a few episodes back that, I really liked Double Fine putting out old LucasArts games so I could click classic mode. And what I was actually really referring to at the time was the mobile version. I own the games, most of them on floppy, to be honest. So I can just, and if it's not floppy, GOG, whatever. So I can just play them on a computer. But it's been really cool to have a lot of the classic Lucas games on my phone and be able to just switch it over to classic mode and play it as I know and love it on the mobile. So yeah, love Double Fine, and I do hope that Sam and Max is next, because they're kind of crossing them one off at a time down the list as they go. For those who don't know, they've done Monkey Island 1 and 2. They've done Data Technical, Full Throttle, and Grim Fandango. So yeah, it'd be really nice to see if they could do Sam and Max next. But yeah, that's all I got.
Awesome, sounds good. Well, I guess that concludes this little portion of Reader Mailbag, technically speaking. Thanks to Sean McCauley and Ryan Fan for sending us your questions. For those of you who have questions for us, please feel free to send them in. We would love to address as many as we can, depending on the question. We do reserve the right not to at the same time. We do have a Patreon now, as I alluded to earlier. www.patreon.com/classicgamersguild. We only have one tier. If you donate anything at all, you are a member, and you have access to anything that we decide to randomly put out as bonus content. We will figure out what exactly that will be as it happens, but, donate $1, donate $10, it doesn't matter. Just give us pocket change, and that's cool. And we'll release whatever we happen to think you might enjoy at that time when we come up with it. So who knows? We'll see. We'll totally understand if you revoke any subscriptions based on what we put out there. But if all you have to do is give us $1 a month, and it's there you go. We'll give you whatever we've deleted, because it wasn't good enough to make onto our show.
But until we come up with something, I will hand mail the Patreons from here on out 1 single gold foil star. How about that?
That's gonna cost quite a bit. I think postage is actually more than $1 nowadays. So
I will take a photograph of 1 gold foil star and send it to you.
And email it.
Exactly.
Yes.
But anyway, as you said, I just want to say real quick, thank you so much to Sean McCauley and Ryan Fan. Really appreciate it. You lot out there, if you got questions, send them to us. Whether they're fun, serious, you just want to put us on the spot and watch us squirm through it, specifically me, because Ric's a lot more professional, please do so. And in the future, we might even do some listener stories. So definitely submit all the ideas that you got, and we appreciate you listening.
Links to all of our social media accounts are listed in the description of our episode. So if you want to go check there, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Check the description, find us wherever you'd like to find us, and drop us a line and ask us a question, or give us scathing criticism or death threats.
Yes, exactly. Especially that. They're always fun. And, be safe out there. We love you. Don't do murder.